everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a long time since I've made one of these videos. They take a lot of effort to make. They take a couple of hours to sit down and edit all the videos and find all the cool bits and record all the audio. So thanks for checking this out, even though it's been a long hiatus. But we're back. We got the Bucks County Classic here. This is my last race of the road season for 2022. And it was a fun one. It was raining basically all day, so a course like this, fairly technical, especially that turn we just came out of. It's downhill into a sharp right, so it makes things interesting. We definitely took it a little bit slower, but yeah, other than one crash involving two riders, there were no other crashes in this race, which was awesome. So, pretty safe race, big race, 75 starters, and yeah, so the other teams really that we wanted to look out for was Automatic Lonely Hearts, which had about 8 or 9 people. And then us on meta, we had 4 of us. So it was myself, Frankie, Brian, and Carter. So it was the 4 of us, and we didn't really have a plan going into this race. Frankie, I know, wanted to do really well. I wanted to do really well. Both of us felt pretty strong this season. Brian's also pretty strong. He's been racing pretty consistently this season. And Carter's pretty new to racing, so I think Carter just wanted to see what he could do. And yeah, so we didn't really have a plan. We just kind of wanted to see how it unfolded. And yeah, here's Carter up on my red and the orange helmet. And unfortunately, I missed my clip-in. So if you noticed in the very beginning, I kind of hit my shin on my pedal when I tried to clip in. I unfortunately bumped the guy in front of me with my wheel, which caused me to miss my clip, and I totally hit my shin with my pedal, so it's still bruised even a week later when I'm recording this. But it missed my clip-in. It took me until after turn 1 to clip in, unfortunately. So I lost, I think, 30 positions or so, which was really brutal because then I had to make up all those positions on the first couple laps. So once I was able to get through the first lap safely, I figured out kind of what the limits were as far as each turn and how fast I could take them. And also, good news was that I have new wheels for my race bike, and they came tubeless. So I actually had the pressure really low and wasn't worried about a pinch flat, which was perfect for a race like this. When it's wet, the pavement's kind of slick, and we have a bunch of 90-degree turns. So, spent the first couple laps making up positions, which definitely hurt because those were matches that I wasn't planning on using, because if I had made my clip-in the very beginning, I wouldn't have had to do that. But, unfortunately, I had to make up all these positions because I didn't want to let the race get away without me in it. So, I was able to use the drafts of people and kind of move through. The backstretch that was a bit faster, I was also able to pedal past people because in that long, fast stretch, people were braking pretty early in order to set up for that right-hand turn that goes uphill. And I felt confident enough in my equipment and in myself and my handling that I could brake a little later, so I was able to use that to my advantage. And also the hill, I'm a decent climber, so I was able to move outside of the group, although I am using more energy here because I'm outside in the wind. But yeah, it was a fun race. It was... This first turn and turns number 2 were, I think, where I was the most nervous. This part here where you come downhill and then you come into the sharp right turn was definitely where we were the slowest. But yeah, we're going to fast forward now. I'm going to kind of show you how I move through the group. And this part here, like I said, I was able to use this and really go past some people who were a little bit slower. Was nice and safe. Was able to take some pretty good lines, past a ton of people. And now I'm getting close to the front. And this part was still pretty fast despite the rain. We got up to close to 40, or at least 40, I think, on this stretch. But I was able to move around, and once I got up to the front, I was in good shape, although I had to recover, because 171, my heart rate right now, 172, is not super high. My max is 186 or 187 is, I think, the highest it's ever been. So my heart rate generally is pretty low, so 175 right now is kind of high. But I needed to make up spaces. I didn't want to let the race get away from me, especially if there was going to be a breakaway attempt. A course like this could have a breakaway, and especially if it's rainy and people aren't as confident in their handling abilities. If there's somebody who breaks off the front who is confident, then they can get away really easily. So we're going to fast forward now. We're on lap 3 of 12, and you can barely see it, but Frankie's moving up on the left. He was starting behind me, and Brian's also behind him. I didn't actually see him, but he is up there. So Frankie's going to move up to the front, and what ends up happening is he gets into a break with another rider from a different team. And Frankie is definitely the kind of rider who could do that. He could definitely ride a breakaway. He's an engine. He can hold high wattage for a long period of time, which is not me. So I'm perfectly content letting Frankie go up the road with the breakaway. And then I'm going to kind of weave my way through the group here, be careful, and try not to slip out and crash people out. But I'm going to kind of sit in, because now I see that Frankie and Brian are up the road, so I don't have an incentive to chase. And I'm going to let everybody else do that job, especially Lonely Hearts in the pink kits up here, like this guy in front of me. So they're the biggest team, so really it's their responsibility to chase back anything that looks threatening. And you can't really see it, but if you kind of look through the turn, you can kind of, yeah, so you see Frankie and the other guy up there, up the road a little bit. And right now they have, I think that's like a 5 or 6 second gap. And they're just going to keep going. And they're going to roll off the front. And they never get more than, I think, 8 or 9 seconds away. But I'm pretty confident in Frankie's ability to keep going. But eventually what happens here, I think what's happening right now, is the guy who Frankie moves up with eventually just keeps motoring off in front of Frankie. And Frankie kind of has a choice. So he either could put in a huge dig and stay with him, or save his energy and come back to the group. And I think this early on in the race, no one really expected a breakaway to stick. So Frankie chose to come back into the group. And here, so we're actually about to catch Frankie now. We're going to fast forward a little bit more. This is later on lap 4. We've got Brian here on my left. And this is actually a really smart move from Brian. So what's happening here is we're catching Frankie, who's up on the right. You can't really see him. But Brian's going to try a counterattack, which is a great idea. Now he brings a few people with him. Again, I'm sitting in. I don't want to chase my teammate. But eventually the whole group kind of increases the pace. And here's Frankie in front of me in the long sleeves. So the whole group increases its pace, so I just follow the group. But I'm in the wind, so I'm not really spending a whole lot of energy, even though it is uphill. And yeah, so we keep the pace high. I was pretty proud of myself the way I was able to stay in the front of this race. I was moving through the pack. I was keeping my position really well. And I was pretty proud of the way it went. So we're going to fast forward a bit more now, because not a lot happens between then and now. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is the guy who broke away from Frankie is still in a breakaway. And at this point now, I think he probably has 20 or so seconds on the group, which is insane. He essentially just holds whatever wattage he held and just continued to hold it, which is super impressive. And he ends up winning the race, actually. So, spoiler alert, he ends up sticking the brake, which is impressive. And now we're kind of, at this point in the race, we only have 4 laps left, so it's getting pretty clear that if we don't work together, then we're not going to catch him. And Frankie and I and these guys up here were trying to work together. We did try a couple times to kind of get in a rotation, get in a pace line, and try to bring him back. And I don't know what the time gap was. People weren't always yelling out the time gap, so I wasn't quite sure if we were catching him or if we were staying the same. But there were parts where we were actually working together and we were able to, what I thought, kind of bring him back, or at least it looked like it to me. But we're kind of getting spread apart now. We're definitely stringing the group out pretty long. And at this point, really, I'm just trying not to lose contact. So we have 3 laps to go. We're on lap 9. And at this point, in my head, I'm pretty confident that we're not going to catch him. I think it was either this lap when I look up the hill, or maybe the next one, and I see how far away he is, and I realize that it's not gonna happen. So this guy up here had tried to break from the group that was chasing. So I bridge up to him, and I kind of pass him. I'm not going to put in a huge effort. I mean, I guess I am at like 460 watts. But I'm really just trying to carry my speed up the hill. And I know I have Frankie behind me, so I'm helping him out. And then this guy in the orange comes up over me. And I'm not super worried about him getting up the road or bridging to the next guy. I mean, there's really no way for us to bridge to the guy in front. So really at this point, it's come down to a competition for second and third. So there are still 2 spots on the podium left, and there is still money left. I think the payout for this race is $2,500. It pays 5 deep, so there is definitely still some money on the line. So this group now that I'm with is really playing the cat and mouse game of who's going to do the work on the front, who's going to pull, is there going to be somebody to try another breakaway, right? And so right here I'm just kind of sitting in. I'm not doing a huge effort right now. And I know that we're going to eventually catch this guy. This guy, I can tell, he's not putting in a huge effort right now, so I'm not really worried about him rolling off the front. And And I know I've got a decent amount of people right behind me as well. So, not worried about it. Taking all these choice lines, making sure that I'm taking the most efficient lines I can. Carrying my speed down here, not putting in a huge effort, not burning more matches than I need to. My heart rate's at 166, 165, which for a crit is really low. So, I'm feeling good here. My legs actually feel better than I expected after the cross race the day before, which was really hard. It was the first cross race of the season for me, and I forgot how hard they were. So I was pleasantly surprised at how my legs felt. But we're coming into one lap to go now. So this guy in CS Velo gets to the front, and he does a really good effort on the front. I kind of was expecting him to do a pull and then kind of just slow down and let people pass him. But he kind of puts in a consistent effort here. I mean, we're coasting here because we're setting up for the turn, but what he could have done is he could have really just sat up and then just let people come around him. But like right here, I let him get back in front of me. And he's holding speed. I mean, we're doing 25, 26. And I'm perfectly content letting him pull me along. I'm absolutely happy sitting in a draft. And now what's going on in my head is I'm thinking about how we're going to set up the sprint at the end. So I'm not a huge fan of this position. I'm too far forward. Frankie is in a much better position. I think at this point he's probably 10th wheel or maybe 8th. So he's sitting pretty in the back right behind me. But I am too far forward. And this guy I can tell he's doing an effort, but he's kind of slow-ish. So I go around him here. And fortunately, this guy in the orange comes around and I can get behind him. But that was definitely a mistake that I made coming around the CS Velo guy, because I really didn't have a reason to do that. And I burned matches doing that, right? Like, we're coming down to, this is probably like 1,000 meters to go or so, and I need every match that I have to sprint at the end, especially uphill. It's going to be really, really hard. And here, again, I'm out in the wind, I'm out off the side, I'm putting in over 500 watts initially on the climb, which is too much. Again, I should be in the draft. I'm still too far forward, so I don't really like where this is going. And again, right now I'm just kind of sitting in the wind, which I tend to do a lot, which frustrates me in hindsight, because I know that that's not the right thing to do, and I'm just wasting energy. Isaac here on GII is going to come around me, and right before this, we actually, as he was coming up to the front, we exchanged a look like, alright, who's going to pull? So he's going to pull through. I'm perfectly content kind of sitting on his wheel, but again, I'm doing this thing now where I get impatient. I think sitting behind somebody, I get worried that people are going to swarm me and I get boxed in if there's going to be an effort. So when I was off to the side, Isaac pulls off. I'm going to be sitting behind this guy right here. And he's doing a good effort here, right? Like, we're doing 27, 26. We're starting the uphill, and then we're going to come up to this right and finish. And right here, he stands up, but it's not a huge effort. And at this point, I'm kind of like, okay, like, I just need to go. I can see the finish line, and I'm like, alright, I'm just going to put in the hammer and see what I can do. But I just didn't really have the snap left in my legs. And it was just a long, lonely uphill, and everybody comes around me. But fortunately, you see Frankie, if you notice, comes up around me on the left there, and he snags third. So he put in a huge effort, and it was great for him. He put in a hell of a sprint, and got third. I think he maxed, like, over 1,000 watts at the finish there. And, I mean, great job for him. Got us on the podium, did really well for him. He's getting seriously close to Cat 2 now. And yeah, I just didn't really have anything left in my legs at that point. I think I guess I just wasn't as confident in my sprint. I just didn't feel like I had that extra juice that I needed. And yeah, I kind of just let people come around me at the end, which was pretty disappointing. I was thrilled with like 95% of how I did this race. You know, the last part really being the only part that I didn't really enjoy. I ate too much wind on the last lap. I spent too much energy. And, you know, it cost me, right? Because if I had saved those matches, then who knows? I could have gotten maybe top 10 or whatever. Could have maybe tried to go with Frankie, but it is what it is. I'm still learning how to race. I'm still putting it together. I'm confident in my fitness. I think my decision-making and my patience is still something that needs to be improved, but I keep doing things like this, and, you know, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying not to make the same mistake, but it's hard when you see it right there and you think that I could just go, you know, sit at 500 watts and go up the hill. But it is what it is. I got 16th. Frankie got 3rd, which is awesome. Brian got 18th. Carter finished as well, which is really good for him. He did really well in this race. And it was a good end of the season. Nobody crashed. We kept rubber side down, and it was a fun race. Honestly, it was a lot of fun in the rain. So thanks for watching this. Thanks for sticking around. I know I haven't made videos in a while, so appreciate you watching this after the hiatus. And like and subscribe if you want to see more of this content. Hopefully I'll have more videos out soon, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Dude, I didn't think he was going to stick that. He's so, like, I could tell because he bridged up to me, and then he barely even sticked down. Nice race, Brian. Yeah, you too. We were both behind that. Yeah, yo, how many people crashed? That like just completely knocked the tails out of me. Yeah, no. I was like, I can't crash again.